Hey, boys and girls. Basically, the same exact thing that we did yesterday, just with slightly bigger or larger, technically be the better word for that, numbers. Okay? So, yeah, we have something like 9 divided by 2. And this is how you write that. I know it looks kind of backwards because we say the 9 first, but then the 9 goes underneath. That's our dividend. That's how I think of it again, is how many kids are there? We're going to divide that by 2. And I know, see on here, it kind of goes backwards. That's either two ways to think about it. Either you want to make 2 teams or you want to put 2 kids on each team. And either way you think about it, for me, I think of more of make teams of 2. But either way, we'll technically work and find that other piece. So again, it's called our quotient. Meaning again, how many teams of 2 can we make? And a lot of you will look at this one and say 90 divided by 2. That's really hard. Okay? If you can do 9 divided by 2, 90 divided by 2 really isn't much harder. It is a little bit harder because there's just a few extra steps involved in it. Okay, but the basic idea and the basic understanding is the same. And I talked a little bit last time. Again, our steps of long division is what eventually we're going to get into. Are D, M, S, B, and R. Okay, and we'll kind of continuously use those. The first 3 are our basic ideas, our basic properties, our basic functions, okay, or our basic arithmetic, as I call it on our random Friday ones. Okay, D stands for divide. First, we're going to figure out how many times can this number fit into this other number. Then we're going to multiply. Okay, we're going to take the number on top, multiply it by the number on the side, and that'll tell me how many kids basically we've used so far, or how many kids are already on a team. S in math would be subtraction here. Poor addition gets kind of left out. That's okay. We do really the other 3 major steps here. First, we divide, which again is essentially how many groups can I make? Then we multiply, again, how many kids did we already use? How many kids get on a team? Then we subtract to figure out how many kids are left. Okay? Then these ones, they don't always happen, but those 3 kind of always will. If there's more, like when we get over here with the 90, there's going to be an additional step called bring down, which is when the 0 will come down and join up with if there's anything that's left. And then R can mean kind of 2 things. Typically, it's repeat. And if there's nothing to bring down, then actually R becomes the remainder. Okay, so I know that was a lot of talking to kind of get to this part. And I know this is going to be confusing at first. And then the second time you do it, the 8th time you do it, the 12th time you do it, the 20th time you do it, each time it will start to get a little easier and a little easier and a little easier. Okay, overall, at least yesterday and then today again, they're giving you kind of basic numbers to work through. Like they're not giving you like the 6 times 7 is 42, the 8 times 7 is 56 kind of math facts. It's mostly been 2s, 3s, a couple 4s. And they're really more wanting you to focus on the procedure or the steps, the DMSBR. A couple different ways that people have remembered over the years. Dirty mops smell bad, and without the R. Some people remember it as dad, mom, sister, brother, rover, like a family. You know, the dad, mom, one girl, one boy, and then a dog. Anything like that. Does McDonald's sell burgers? Okay, whatever helps you to remember it. The basic idea of division is, again, how many groups of that can I make? So again, I always go to gym class. Yeah, that's how I was thinking, sports. There are 9 kids, right? And Mr. Weinhold says, get into teams of 2. So these guys say, hey, you want to be on my team? There's one group. These 2 work together. These 2 are going to work together. And then these 2 are going to work together. Okay? Some people, again, the answer here is not 8. We're going to use that in a minute. Some people kind of mix up what goes where. The top is how many groups or how many teams did you make? Okay, that's the divide. Divide is kind of the group or the teams. When we divided 9 by 2, how many groups or teams did we make? Okay, you can go and you can count. There's 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams, 4 teams or groups. That's the number that goes up top. Underneath is that our multiply. How many of the 9 kids are already on a team? There were 4 teams. There was 2 kids on each team. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, we've already used 8 of the 9 kids already have a team, which brings us to S for subtract. Okay, how many kids are still left or did not end up on a team? Just that 1 kid. That's our subtract. I look at my next step. That was my D, M, and S. I go to bring down, and there's nothing to bring down. So I go to R. In this case, R would be my remainder. Okay, I was able to make 4 whole teams of 2. Again, these kind of work then backwards. 4 times 2 makes 8, plus R1. So we do get to do a little bit of addition when we're checking. Right? We do 4 times 2 is 8. And then 8 plus 1 equals 9. That's kind of the reverse or the inverse of that I can check. Okay, most people, again, 2 divided by 9, or 9 divided by 2, excuse me, not too bad. So you can kind of picture that in your mind. Okay, and then when we get to kind of a harder one like this, like 90, all of a sudden things are going to change. Let me just throw that out of the way. Then I'm going to use this space over here. Okay. When it's 90 divided by 2, now something is going to change because this is my tens place. Okay, that first part would stay exactly the same. In my 9 here, how many 2s could I fit in? How many groups of 2? The answer is still 4. 9 divided by 2 has not changed. How many of the kids did I use? Again, that would still be 8. 4 times 2 is 8. Again, that's not going to change. How many kids were left over? There's still this 1 that's left over. That's still DMS. Okay, with 90, again, here's the part now that's different. The 0 is going to come down and combined with the 1 to make 10. That's what happened to this 1 that's left over, this 110 that's left over. Again, like one $10 bill, I could trade you that for 10 $1 bills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I'm going to go back through and say, well, now how many groups of 2 can I make? So this is now kind of gone, right? Or we converted it. It's not gone. We traded it in, or we're using it for something different. Now, if I have 10 more kids, how many groups of 2 can I make? There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and there's 5. Because that's 5 times 2 makes 10. Okay, so the number of groups goes up top. That's what goes here. That was 5 groups. That's the division. How many groups or teams could I make with 10 kids? I could make 5 more teams of 2. So that's kind of this. How many times did 2 fit into 10? 5 times. How many kids did we use on the teams? That's the multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. And then our subtract, how many kids were left over? So I'm sorry, so that was the B, right? So B was to bring down the 0. And then R was repeat. How many times can 2 fit into 10? We used all 10, so there was 0 left over. So I know, again, 90 divided by 2 seems really hard. Again, it's just the same as 9 times 2 with an extra step. And then it's just 10 divided by 2. So again, if you can do 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 5 is 10, then you can do this problem. Again, I know a lot of you are getting confused by the steps. Like I said, that's just, we're going to work on this like 3, 4, 500 times over the next month. And eventually, you just got to kind of get the pattern down or get used to it. Eventually, we're going to move away from these. Because later in the year, we might have a problem like 4,362 divided by 7. And I do not want you to sit there and draw out 4,362 little circles on your paper and then count to 7 and make a group. And eventually, we're going to get away from that stuff. Okay, for now, it's a good, helpful way to help you understand how or why it works that way. Like that one that was left over, that would become a 10. If this was 93, that would have became a 13. Okay, there was one left, and then I connect it to whatever I would bring down next. Or again, later, I do the 43, then I bring down the 6. I would go through that with the one that was left over, 16. 7 goes into 16 twice. With 2 left over, bring down the 2. Combine it to 22, and so on. Okay, but these are kind of the basic steps or the basic parts of that we're eventually going to get to. And then same thing with my check. Okay? This number times this number should get me back to here. 45 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. There's our 10 again. Right? The 1 goes up. And then 2 times 4, there's our 8. That was right here. Plus the 1 gets us back to 9. So it's just, again, division looks harder. There's a whole bunch going on at once. You just have to get better. Just keep working and just trying. Okay? Your job for today is to get a little better than you were with it yesterday. Your job for tomorrow is to get a little better than you were with it today. Your job for Thursday, get a little better than you were with it on Wednesday, and so on. And then again, about a week or two, you'll have the steps down. Okay? If you're still having trouble with the math, like that's a different thing, but I want you to get used to these steps. I'll do one more quick example. Okay, I'll do one more kind of quickly with you. Again, the last problem is 92 divided by 4 on your worksheet. Or it's technically on the computer, so called a worksheet. Okay? This one is similar, 96 divided by 4. It's going to start off the same way. Okay? If I'm doing it kind of the long division way, and I think back to my DMSBR. Divide. I'm asking myself, how many groups can I make? That's kind of the essential question I'm thinking of. Okay, when I'm dividing, how many groups of 4 can I fit into 9? I'm thinking, if I have 9, I'm thinking my math facts 4, I can definitely make more than that. 8, 12, too big. I don't have 12. Okay, so I can only do 2 whole groups of 4. Remember, this is groups or teams. Okay, how many of the 9 kids are on a team or have I used already? That's 2 times 4, that's the M. That's 8. Okay, so don't get those two things confused. 2 is how many groups or teams I made. With 9 kids, I can make 2 teams of 4. I used 8 kids, and then there was 1 left over. That's my subtract. 9 minus 8 was 1. There's 1 kid I didn't use. That would then become 10. I then bring down. I want to do a number besides 0 because now this is 16. That's after my bring down. So see what I subtracted? I got 1. I brought down the 6 to join it. That made 16. Now I repeat with 4 into 16. And if I have 16 kids, how many teams of 4 can I make? Again, I'm thinking about my math facts again. 4, that's 1, 8, 2, 12 is 3, and 16 is 4. I got exactly to it. Okay? What I'm thinking of is groups. This I'm going to use after, but not yet. Okay, the same way here. Like this was as far as I got that first time. I'll do it in red because I did it in red. Even though it was 9, the closest I could get was 8. That number became important down here. Okay, 16, I got exactly to it. How many groups was that? 1, 2, 3. Wanted that to be green. 4 groups of 4. 4 times 4 is 16. How many of the 16 kids did I use? All 16 of them. How much was left? 0. Okay, so then I come over here to my actual questions. Again, and kind of in each step, just like with yesterday, they're going to say, did you draw your discs out? I didn't here because I did it the long division way. But I would still have to check that to get to the next part. What is the quotient? The quotient is our answer. That's how many groups we made. We were able to make 24 groups. What is the remainder? Here it was 0. Check your work is 24 times 4 equals 96. I didn't have anything to add back on. If it was 97, it would be 24 times 4 plus 1 equals 97. But 24 times 4, I can prove to you that that's my answer by checking it. 4 times 4 is 16. That's from down here. 4 times 2 is my 8 again. Plus 1 is 9. Okay, so that was my 16, my 8, and my 9. 96. All right. Like I said, this just takes practice. It takes effort. It takes work. It takes just remembering the steps. How many groups can you make? How many of the kids did I use? How many kids are left over? Bring down, repeat. How many groups can I make? How many of the kids did I use so far? How many kids are left over or left out right now? Bring down, repeat. Okay, how many groups can I make? How many of the kids did I already use? Is there anybody left over and how much? Bring down, next number, repeat. How many, and same thing. How many groups can I make? How many of the kids or group did I already use? How many are left over?